I'm gonna tell y'all what it's like to be a broke, white, homeless, unattractive male when you're being abused. The sheriff here in Chapel, Nebraska, Deuel County, Nebraska. His name is Sheriff Scott DeCosta. Almost a year before Natalie died, I was suicidal. Not one of my friends bothered to find out why. Not even one. Their idea of helping me was to turn me in. Sean's suicidal, we better do something to punish him for it. And that's exactly what they did. They punished me for it. Here's what happens when you call it in. I was suicidal over bullying and nobody wanted to hear it. They all kept giving me advice. None of them knew what the fuck was going on, but they wanted to give advice. So here's your lesson on listening. You can't help someone if you don't know what the fuck is going on. To this day, not one person I know has bothered to sit down with me and find out what's going on. Not one police agency that I have gone to in person has bothered to look at the evidence. They've outright stolen it on multiple occasions. But we're going to get back to Sheriff Scott DeCosta. I've been harassed, threatened, bullied, and assaulted for over 3 years now. I can't go to the police. Now, I knew this from the start. Without someone in person to go in with me, I can't go to the police. I will be harmed. That's because the police know that they did wrong. Sheriff Scott DeCosta knows that if he takes a report from me, he's going to prison. If it actually gets investigated, he is going to prison. So is State Patrol Officer William Burr of Chapel, Nebraska. What he did was do everything in his power to stall my ability to make a police report. Everything in his power, including sending me to Scotts Bluff. Fuck that piece of shit. How is backing a man into a corner helping him? How is drugging a man for trying to speak to the police helping him? To this day, not one goddamn person has done a fucking thing about the bullying, the harassment, the threats, or the assaults. Not one goddamn person. When it comes to helping people, you need to shut the fuck up, Shannon Alvarado. You need to shut the fuck up, Candace Bondurant. You need to shut the fuck up and listen. You need to stop talking and look at the evidence, Brian Schwartz. You need to shut the fuck up. The reason I was able to help people, there were two reasons. Number one, the number one reason I was able to help people is because I understood their position. I'd been in it before. When you're homeless and you're cold, you know what that's like. When you see a homeless person out there who's cold, you know what to do. Give them something to help them warm up, or take them somewhere where they can warm up. But those of you who have never been homeless, that doesn't register in your mind for one fucking moment. You walk from your car to your vehicle, and you go, Jesus, fuck, it's cold out here. Yeah, and you were in the cold for what? 30 seconds? You fucking idiot. Try sleeping in that shit, you piece of shit. So, almost a year before Natalie died, in January 8th of 2017, instead of taking a report from me and doing something about the bullies, I was taken to Sydney, Nebraska. Now, I'm pretty sure that was Brenda Dickinson who called it in. She blamed it on my mother. My mother is blocked from my Facebook for a reason. It's because my mother is a terrible person. Brenda Dickinson outright lied to me. Now, the fact is, everyone lies to me. It's okay for you to lie repeatedly over and over and over again. Because of your selfish pride, you lost nothing. I lost everything because none of these people were honest. Now, for over a year before Natalie was killed, I was suicidal. When Natalie stopped me from killing myself, all I needed was a safe place. All I needed was to be able to get a night's sleep without being harassed by the police. I was too injured to do so. I couldn't get away from them. After Virginia, though, I had a vehicle. I could have done that. I could have gotten somewhere safe. I could have gone to see my loved ones in Boulder. And after I was done visiting with my loved ones in Boulder, I could have moved on to somewhere else. Because I had a vehicle. I had a place to put my life-saving gear, that backpack that I had to carry around for years and years, that I wasn't able to carry on my back any longer after I hurt my back. At least I had a vehicle to put it in. I could walk around Boulder longer than a block without feeling like I was going to fold in half. Sheriff Scott decoste has done everything in his power since Natalie died to protect himself and his own wrongdoing. Most of these people who I have been trying to press charges against and get cases going against, because I didn't have the money to even go to those places. These people got away with it. They use the same stall tactics everywhere. Do everything in your power not to look at evidence, to destroy evidence, to prevent people who are going through this from being able to file a report against their officers until the statute of limitations is over. And just in case that doesn't work, you transfer those people out. Now let's look at the list of people who have been transferred out. Officer Jordan Anderson has been transitioned out, so I can't get his testimony. That was the very first issue after Natalie died and I spoke to Scott decoste, is that Jordan Anderson was allowed to move on. It was a good idea, because if he hadn't, then the Deuel County Sheriff's Department here would be in a lot of fucking trouble. But because he's completely out of state, nothing can be done, because he was allowed to cross jurisdictional boundaries to escape. He wasn't the only one. There's also Officer Cody Selhorst. He went to South Dakota. So he can escape, because he's in a different state entirely, different jurisdiction. Meanwhile, the crimes committed against me and all of the things that happened to me in courtrooms, because I was never allowed to show evidence, never allowed to speak on my own behalf, never allowed to call witnesses, had my evidence stolen, and did not have public pretenders who would do their jobs, because I'm homeless. I am not pretty, I am not rich. Those things get to follow me to every jurisdiction. And any officer who looks at my paperwork, any judge who looks at my paperwork, any public pretender who looks at my paperwork gets to see that slander and the outcome. Fuck the United States. This place needs to burn. Now then there's Amanda Balehash. I can't pursue her because she is now a judge in Adams County. I can't pursue Joel J. because he is now a judge in a different state. I can't pursue Officer Burke for what he did in Adams County because he is in Boulder County now. And I can't pursue him in Boulder County because, as we all know, they won't take a report from anyone who is homeless. These are their tactics, folks. They have 1,000,001 tricks and loopholes to prevent you from having an honest day in court. They have 1,000,001 tricks and loopholes that they can use to hide the fact that they broke the law repeatedly. The fact is, law enforcement in the state of Nebraska and the state of Colorado not doing their jobs is the reason that I had to do the things that I did to defend myself and my loved ones. I have been harassed over 200 times just in the last month, easily over 200 times. You might find that surprising given the fact that I rarely ever leave the household that I'm in. One of the people harassing me is obviously a relative of James Payton. I am pretty sure that it's Seth. I'm pretty sure that I have his phone number. There are actual predators out there. Predators like Ted Bollinger, who got away with what they did. Why? Because the police did wrong things, and between doing any actual investigating and covering up the wrongdoing of their fellow officers, they chose to cover up the wrongdoing of their fellow officers. Sheriff Scott DeCoste deserves a bullet in his head. I'm not willing to kill him. That doesn't change the fact that he deserves death. 100 years ago, the laws were different. 100 years ago, Scott DeCoste would have been hung for what he did. I mean that literally. Oh, let me take that back. 120 years ago. Officer Jordan Anderson deserves a bullet in his head for what he did. No, I'm not saying this because I personally want to do any such thing, because I don't. I'm saying this because so many people have told me that's what should be done. So many people said, Sean, if they did that to me, I would have killed him. No, you wouldn't have. You're just a mouth. That's what you think should be done, but you're not willing to do it now, are you? No, because you're a fucking coward. You are too afraid to even speak up. There's no way in hell you're going to point a firearm at somebody like that. Unless you're drunk. Now, the officer who pretended like he was going to do something because Molly Smith went in with me here in Deuel County. Yeah, he's still here. But he also didn't do any investigating. I've spoken to Molly Smith. I've spoken to Laura Nelson. That man did nothing. They shipped me to Scotts Bluff. They lied to Jen Beebe to have me shipped to Scotts Bluff in order to hide their own wrongdoings. Nearly every officer that I have dealt with has committed felonies to prevent the wrongdoing of themselves and their fellow officers from coming to light. The threats against my life that I've had to endure in the last month and a half, the harassment, the harassing phone calls, all of these things that are happening to me, and I can't go to the police. Meanwhile, the police can do whatever they want to me. Sheriff Scott DeCosta can trump up charges on me. And get away with it. There's also the fact that I have been forced to break the law in order to try to bring light to this, to stop it from happening in the future, to put a stop to it now. How is a person supposed to defend themselves in a court of law if they're prevented from going? How is somebody supposed to defend themselves in a court of law if they're not allowed to speak? How is somebody supposed to defend themselves in a court of law if they're not allowed to show evidence? How is someone supposed to feed themselves, clothe themselves, put a roof over their head when all of their money is spent going to court dates in places where they are victimized? For the last month, I should have been going down to the police department here and reporting every single harassment, every single piece of evidence. I should have been down there forcing those police to take a look, but you can't force them to take a look. Not unless someone goes in with you. Molly Smith just had knee surgery. She's had a commission for 6 to 8 weeks. So I have to wait at least 6 to 8 weeks before the one person who's been willing to go in with me out of all of this can go in with me again. Meanwhile, I have to go try to make a report to the very officers that I've been trying to take to court. Do you know what that's like? Having to go to your predators to ask for help about your predators. Having to go to the very police officers who did you wrong to try to report about the other people who are doing you wrong, threatening your life, harming you. Do you know what that's like? All it would have taken is one person to actually speak out publicly. I posted up 95 conversations with witnesses. 95 of them on one of my posts. On this video, I'm going to post that in the link at the bottom, or post that in the comments at the bottom. The link to that video. Click on the link to that video and you can view, see, and listen to those 95 conversations. Conversations with officers. Conversations with Miss Peaches. Conversations with Mandy Hughes and Aaron Cockerham. All of these people who were too cowardly to come forward. The things that they should have come forward with are in those videos. I'm going to tell you something else. Most of the people I know who say in Jesus' name say it only to manipulate others. Oh, well, they believe in our Jesus, so they must be good people. No, they're manipulating you. Fuck the police. Fuck law enforcement across the United States. Fuck the government and fuck anyone who supports them. Your taxes are used to persecute the poor for being poor. Christians want to talk about being persecuted. They persecute more than any other group worldwide. But they brush that under the rug and say, oh, well, those aren't real Christians. Well, then there is no such thing as a real Christian.